All right, guys, we are live. UFC Vegas 94. Lemos versus Jandiroba. Jandiroba versus Lemos. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Feeling pretty well. We actually, for an 11-fight card that had relatively low stakes overall, there's a good amount of stuff to talk about. I'm feeling good.
It's funny you say that because I'm looking at it. I'm like, man, how are we gonna, do this deep for the show? Because I'm like, other than the main event, not the most marketable fight too. Everyone else is prelims guys are above, but I'm going to do a little different. I want to talk about our picks first, which is what we normally do. We do a preview show. If you guys are the first time watching, we do what I believe is the most in-depth preview show in the entire world. We preview every UFC card. Listen, we don't brag about how well we do. We don't care about getting insulted, but I do want to talk about upsets. Ben went on this crazy streak. Out of 11 fights, he picked 5 upsets. I picked 4 upsets out of 11. I think we did pretty good, my man. You went 3-2.
I was feeling great. I was right the first 3 fights of the night. Then I was wrong the next 6 in a row. So,
but you know what? If you were following and you were betting, 3-2 with the upsets, dude, that's a money night for you. I went 3-1 on my upset picks. That's money night too if you followed us. I want to say, overall, I'm sure people nitpicks at the ones we got wrong, but I'll say overall good night. I think our consensus. I don't know how many consensus out of dogs we picked.
Peterson in the opening fight, Luana Carolina. We both we nailed that one. I can't remember whether Aljo was. No, Aljo was a favorite.
No, we went with Barbosa too. So we went 2-1 on our consensus pick. So that's not bad either. So let's go with one of the fights that we both picked correctly. We both picked, and I'm going to pronounce her name wrong because apparently I've been saying her name wrong this whole time in the UFC. Virna Jandiroba, I believe is how you say it. She took on former title challenger Amanda Lemos. Jandiroba winning by second round sub. Ben this is, we both kind of thought she'd have a huge, massive advantage on the ground. That's kind of how you saw it. Talk to me about this one.
Well, you and I both picked Jandiroba in this one. We both picked her by decision, but I picked her by decision going on the assumption that Amanda Lemos was going to fight to her best advantage. If you had told me in advance that Lemos is going to just fearlessly go to the ground over and over again with Jandiroba, and when she's on the ground, try to defend herself by initiating scrambles, I might have revised my pick because really this was a bad tactical fight IQ performance from Amanda Lemos. Amanda Lemos's game plan, and again, I'm not a coach, I'm not her coach, but I've seen almost all of her fights in her career. The game plan was as obvious as day. Stay off the ground, hit this woman in the face. She played right into Jandiroba's wheelhouse over and over again. Like from the opening seconds, like Jandiroba shot the double leg takedown in the first 15 or 30 seconds. And she has an okay double, but I even said on the preview, talking about somebody else, the list of women in MMA that can shoot a good double leg from the outside, it's 2 people long. It's like, Tatiana Suarez and Lupi Godinez. That's it.
Yeah.
Maybe Carla Esparza. It wasn't a great double, but Amanda Lemos just immediately jumped the guillotine, and there went the round. It's especially because you're not going to guillotine Virna Jandiroba.
Not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
You put you put yourself exactly in the position she wanted to. I think if I was a coach and I was coaching, a striker against Virna Jandiroba, I would say treat her like she's a zombie. Think about every zombie movie you ever seen, every TV show. I've never seen anybody try to grapple with a zombie.
No,
because you got to avoid getting
them
away
from you. Yeah,
so that's how you got to fight them.
Keep her off you.
Yeah, move, punch when they get close, kick when they get close, and move again. Like, do not get anywhere close to this person. They touch you. You want to try to get away as possible. Now, obviously, it's much easier said than done, but to me, the game plan has to be move. Throw a jab to the body, really.
Yeah.
Maybe some calf kicks, not anything high, but go to the calves, and that's it, and just keep moving, nonstop moving, and try to see if she can wear herself out. You can't stop at one moment. Even if you're at a little distance, she'll just bull rush you back. Another mistake. There was one point in the second where Jandiroba went for a takedown, and Amanda Lemos was able to get to her feet, and they were in like a wizard position. If people understand what I'm saying. Jandiroba actually jumped over a wizard. If you did that against a really good wrestler, you could have get him tossed on your head. But that's not the case with Lemos.
I thought of you when she did that.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my god! If my son did that in a wrestling tournament once. Luckily, the kid he was going against wasn't that good, and my son ended up worked out. I'm like, don't ever do that again. So he's only 9, so I'll give him a pass. A wizard, and anybody who's ever coached wrestling, especially if you ever coached, a wizard is a defensive move. You hit a wizard, you try to face him back out as soon as possible, and then break away. Problem is, she was trying to hip over, and she was trying to use the wizard as an offensive move to win a grappling exchange. And as soon as I saw that, I said, that was a mistake. I didn't expect her to get subbed 30 seconds later or whatever it was, but she just kept putting herself in the worst. I shouldn't say she put herself in the worst positions, because she wasn't trying to get taken down, but I'm trying to. She didn't have a big avenue for victory, but she kept cutting that one in like short. She was like,
she kept decreasing her chances when she could have escaped. Like in the second round, the thing that sort of set up the finishing sequence, Jandiroba was on top. Lemos bucked her and basically swept all the way to top position. From there, she could have stood up and gotten the hell out of there, but just kept rolling. And 5 seconds later, Jandiroba was on her back.
Yeah,
and it was all over from there. I mean, it took a couple of attempts, but her last chance to get out of there and get back to punching her opponent was over. Yeah. Like she swept instead of escaping multiple times. Just, I love Luke Wilson. I think it was Lucian's comment. Basically, treat Jandiroba like she can bite you.
Yeah.
Even if I think I can hang with you on the ground, I don't want to get bitten. So let's just stand. Yeah.
Like she's a zombie, or she's a werewolf, or she's a Dracula or something. Like, you want to stay away.
Yeah.
That one blow, and that's what's going to happen with Jandiroba. And the funny thing about her, she's such a good grappler, but she really isn't. I mean, she is a submission artist, so don't get me wrong, but I mean, she's not Charles Oliveira. Usually, she's not the one who just goes one move right to a quick submission. She inches, she works. But this case
was the most aggressive as I've ever seen her on the ground, going for leg locks and realistic leg locks. I had a locked out knee bar.
As realistic as leg locks can be.
But as realistic as leg locks can be, the transitions in the last 30 or 45 seconds, that's not normally her game. I mean, we knew on some level she could do that. You don't win Brazilian national championships as a one-dimensional grappler, but she'd never really flexed that stuff at the UFC level. That's the kind of stuff she was doing to people in Invicta. So on the one hand, it not the smartest tactical performance from Lemos, but it gave Jandiroba one thing that she desperately needed here, because almost any kind of uncontroversial win was going to move Jandiroba up the ladder to where she's a realistic next call for Weili Zhang. But she actually got the kind of win that might make the average fan slightly interested in seeing it.
Yeah, we'll get to that in 1 second. So before anybody comes at me and be like, "Hey, dude, she has this many subs in the UFC," I'm not saying she's not a submission threat. What I'm saying is her style of submissions. She's slow, methodical. Not what I mean by a Charles Oliveira, where it's 1 second opening, Brian Ortega, one little opening, and then it's the quickest submission and the fight's over. That was the case today. I mean, that armbar was super, super slick. I mean, it was fantastic. Now, I agree with what you're saying about if you are. I mean, because they looked at they showed the graphic of Weili Zhang, and she's been a long reigning champion, and 2 runs, so she's kind of faced everybody. They kind of showed the top of the division. The only people she hasn't faced is Tatiana Suarez and Virna Jandiroba. Suarez is the reason why. I mean, she's so inactive and times. Give it a pass. Virna, she's not plan A for the UFC. If she won the title, who has been a less marketable UFC champion ever than if Virna Jandiroba won the title? Because she has a lot of strikes against her. First of all, I'm gonna try to say this as nice as possible. She's not an Instagram model. And I know that shouldn't matter.
It
matter.
It shouldn't matter, but it does matter because this is somebody that's going to go on posters and go and highlight. And it's not just female champs have to be hot type thing, because male champs or male fighters in general are judged by their looks as well. It's just by a different standard. Male fighters get judged by, do they look like the toughest guy in the world? Do they look like you would expect the champ of that division to look? Women get some of that, but yeah, there's also would you go to their Instagram page? Are they going to show up in some blogs top? Yeah, like it shouldn't matter, but it does. And you're right, she doesn't have that. And then on top of it, she is an outstanding fighter, but this was her most exciting fight ever. Most of her fights are win or lose, pretty steady performances. She doesn't speak any English. I mean, she showed a little pizzazz tonight, came out dancing to Queen.
She tried.
She tried. The dancing wasn't great. The singing was like hilarious. I mean, I like her, but she's going to be a hard sell for a fan base that either wants a Valentina Shevchenko who's hot and deadly, or at least like a Weili Zhang who's just deadly.
Yeah, exactly. So, and again, I'm not trying to get into her looks or anything like that. That's just extremely rude. But yeah. I mean, if I was in closed doors in the UFC, there's obviously things we'd have to address. Like, and so when it comes to Marco, I think about Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor is the biggest star in the history of the UFC. He had this Irish star backing. He had the personality. He had his style of fighting. If Conor McGregor fought like Ben Askren, he wouldn't nearly have been as popular. No matter what he talked, he wouldn't have been as popular.
Absolutely.
But also, if he looked, he had a, reddish hair with a pot down the middle, and he has like that other stereotype of an Irishman, where it's like he's tough, but he's got like freckles and he's like kind of nerdy.
So he looks like Joe Duffy instead of Conor McGregor. All right, yeah.
But because he had, at one point he had the shaved up side with the man bun thing going, and then he had the tattoos over here, and like he had a look to him too.
Yeah.
So that's why he was popular. Now this you can get over that obviously, but that's a huge popularity. He looked it. With Virna, like I think about Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey was so popular because of her bad girl attitude, the way she fought. I mean, getting girls out of there in seconds, pure dominance. Like holy crap! It was like Joey Chestnut eating freaking hot dogs. Like he just like her to the competition gap was so huge. But also, and Ronda Rousey didn't treat herself like Paige Van Zandt. She's very pretty. Like I'm not insulting, but I'm saying like she marketed sex, but not like Paige Van Zandt or some other females have. But she still was very pretty. Guys were attracted to her. That there was a marketability there. So Virna doesn't have this Instagram style. I mean, look how she dressed today. She came in. She's not flaunting her body.
No.
The second thing that hurts her, she doesn't speak English.
Nope.
Now, before someone asks me, they'll say, Anderson Silva didn't speak English.
Anderson Silva also took forever to catch on as a star.
Took forever, exactly. He took forever. And Alex Pereira, he doesn't speak English, but he has a whole presence the way he carries himself. Like his lack of English transcends like his an aura about him. And why he got fast tracked to Anderson Silva didn't get. I know Anderson Silva did. I know he fought for the UFC title the second fight. So I understand my history. But what I mean is he had the counterpart. He had Israel Adesanya to talk. He had that other guy who he had that rival.
Yes.
When you have Weili Zhang, who doesn't really speak English, even though she's learning and stuff, and then Virna Jandiroba, it's like, oh my Lord, like they'll be popular in China, but not here in America. It's not going to happen. So she has that. Third, she has her fighting style. Usually. No, today it was exciting. This is the best case scenario if you're a Virna Jandiroba backer.
And it was Lemos handing her.
And how many times you see this? And how many times you see when she gets in the big, no, but I mean, no, but what I mean by how many times you see is when you're building that fight, how many times are you going to see this exact highlight of super fast armbar?
It's going to be the whole highlight reel
of everything.
Is going to be from this fight.
Right. So I just think this would be I'm thinking who is harder to market than Virna Jandiroba?
That is a great question. I mean, I'll keep thinking about it as we go along, but right now she would be one of the more difficult title challengers to build up. I mean, just very much Anderson Silva versus Talis Leches type thing. And if she became champ, she is way, way up there.
I mean, the only person I can think that's in the same realm as her is Raquel Pennington. But at least Raquel Pennington speaks English. You know, like she'll trash talk like her little thing with Juliana Pena, like she's trash talking. Like Virna Jandiroba is not going to say that. No. You know, she tried trash talk, and I know it's in the Apex, which right away kills it because you don't have a crowd reacting. But she like tried trash talking to Weili Zhang, and it just was like so flat. So that said, what are you doing with her? Because she's on a 4-fight win streak.
She's on a 4-fight win streak, and there's no one ahead of her, assuming that Suarez is still on the shelf, that hasn't already fought Zhang. I seriously think she's next for Weili Zhang if Tatiana Suarez isn't ready to go. Yeah,
I was looking at I was watching a video with Dustin Poirier with Ariel Helwani, and they were talking about if this was a MMA, how should it be marketed? Should it be marketed as a sport or should it be marketed as an entertainment? And Dustin Poirier never really answered, but it's both, if we're being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Her getting the title shot is the sports side.
Yes.
And I think about other sports when teams have won championships that maybe wasn't the most marketable. I think
the San Antonio Spurs in the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, that's a good example.
That's
a great example. Right after the Bulls dynasty, and Michael Jordan was, jumping from the foul line, tongue sticking out, like everything you want. And then you go from him to Tim Duncan.
You got Tim Duncan and probably the smallest media market of any NBA team. It's the equivalent of a non-English speaker from a tiny country. Or like a non-English speaker, and they were a defensive specialist team that like won most of their games like 95-88. Yeah,
good defense and like dunking like post moves that no one gets excited for. Like, I'm not a like huge basketball guy, but like I don't remember Tim Duncan ever slam dunking. Obviously he did. He guy's like 7 feet tall. But sure. I don't remember one.
Yeah, you don't remember anything from that.
I don't remember Tim dunking. Posterizing somebody. That's kind of, you feel like Jandiroba. Like this was, if Tim Duncan has this one badass highlight, which I'm sure he has a shitload, but if he has like this one real badass where he jumps over somebody or something, like that's what Virna Jandiroba did tonight.
Yes. Yep. That's.
Let me ask you this question. We did buy a sell last week. Let's do buy a sell again. Let's throw Tatiana Suarez back in, and again, that is. I mean, she's up there for people you can rely on. I mean, she's in the Hall of Fame. She's in there with Cain Velasquez and a couple other people. Do we have a rock paper scissors situation where Tatiana Suarez dominated Virna Jandiroba?
Yes,
but I feel like Virna would do. She might be able to. Well, maybe not, but like I think she has a decent chance of beating Weili Zhang.
Where you don't think that Suarez would?
No, I do. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying because I do see it, but it's more like if Weili beat Tatiana Suarez, like if that was the next fight, I wouldn't go, oh well, Suarez is a great wrestler who's even better wrestler than Virna Jandiroba. Wow, then what is Virna going to do against Weili? Like, I could still see Virna winning that fight. So that's kind of what I was trying to say.
Well, the two things are true at the same time, and it feels weird to say both of these things, but okay. True thing number one, Weili Zhang is the most dominant women's champion in the UFC right now, and it's not even close. Yeah. True thing number two, I believe that Suarez would beat Zhang. Like, I'd favor her straight up. So it's kind of weird for me to think that the most dominant fighter in the sport is only champ right now because the best fighter in the division, in my opinion, is on the shelf so much. I would say this much. I'd favor Zhang to beat Jandiroba, but I think that Zhang versus Jandiroba probably goes to decision, and it's uncomfortably close for Zhang. Zhang versus Suarez, I favor Suarez, but all the things that make me concerned about her making it to the cage in the first place make me concerned about her in a 5-round fight against Weili Zhang. Like, the one thing you can't really say about Suarez is she's not super well tested in 5-round fights, whereas Jandiroba certainly is. I mean, this is her first. This is her first or second UFC main event. But then, she main evented her last 3 or 4 fights in Invicta because she was the champ and defended once. Like,
yeah, I think this is her first main event.
I think so too. But yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's a tough situation, man. Like, this whole thing is just making me bummed that Tatiana Suarez is injured so much.
Yeah, so it's one of these, like, I ask myself, if Weili beats Tatiana, doesn't she automatically beat Virna? Or is it one of these ones, if she loses, does she automatically either beat both of them, or does she automatically lose to both of them?
Well, again, the main thing that would concern me is Suarez in the later rounds of the fight. Like, Suarez rounds 3 through 5. Like, I could see her really putting it on Weili in the first couple rounds, and then all of a sudden her being now finally like 32 or 33, and the neck surgeries and the cancer. All of a sudden we realize, oh man, there's no gas tank left. And whatever else you may say about Weili Zhang, she is battle tested in 5-round fights.
Yeah. So that's I think that's a very good point.
Whereas Jandiroba, if she's competitive in round 1, she's probably competitive in round 5. She's tough as nails. She's smart. She fights to her best abilities. If she's not good enough to beat Zhang, that's fine. But yeah, she's not going to gas out. Like, Zhang's going to have to actually get rid of her to get rid of her.
No. I agree. Like, the one concern I have with why Virna could actually might be a bigger threat against Weili than Tatiana is we always picture Tatiana Suarez as the best we've seen.
Yes.
And being, like you just mentioned, she's 33. She's had all these injuries. Like, she's 33 years old, and obviously she doesn't have a lot of fight miles. Like, she hasn't fought that much. What's her record? Like 10-0, 11-0, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have a lot of fights. It's 10-0. But she's still old, 33. I mean, you figure she was on the wrestling scene for a long time. She had cancer. You know what I mean? Then she had neck surgeries and back surgeries, ACLs, and this and that. Like,
yeah,
her body's an old.
Ask Chris Weidman what a neck surgery or two does to your ability to wrestle.
Yeah, think about Tito Ortiz. Like, everyone talks about Tito Ortiz getting knocked out by Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture and all that. He also had neck surgery and back surgery. It was neck. I think it was neck surgery in there too.
Yeah, it was a cervical vertebrae. Yeah, it was his neck.
So that's a concern I have. Both of them are available. What are you doing? Say Tatiana Suarez goes, hey, what are you talking about? I'm good to go.
If Suarez is good to go, I booked that fight. I tell Jandiroba, make weight. You're the backup.
I think I would too, because Suarez, you don't know how many opportunities you get. It's how I feel, and not to change subjects, but like when the UFC books these aging stars, I think of like Nick Diaz, who's still, like, there's still a fan base that likes the Diaz brothers, and I mean, I'm not anti-Diaz, but like, you don't have any opportunities with these guys left. Like, why you wasting it on a like Vicente Luque, who's never going to be a star? Like, he is what he is at this point. That, people have heard me say this a million times. Like, I have that old school boxing mentality where you use your aging stars to get over your future stars, or like you know, like I think like the old 1970s wrestling days or 1980s where like Andre the Giant got Hulk Hogan over. He made Hulk Hogan the mega. So he had to take it for him. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know who did for Ric Flair, but like freaking Bob Backlund or some guy. I don't know. I have no idea. Superstar Billy Graham. Somebody got over Ric Flair that first time.
Sure.
You know, and then like Hogan
and
got
Ric
over.
Flair spent like 2.5 decades putting over next generations.
Hulk Hogan got over the Ultimate Warrior. Yeah, you know. I feel like you might not have many opportunities with Tatiana Suarez, so you got to take it right now.
Completely agree.
That said, to me, Virna Jandiroba just sit on the sidelines. I don't think she has to fight anybody else.
I don't think she has to either, which that makes me nervous because I guarantee you she's not making a ton of money. So I also don't want her to have to sit too long.
Yeah, which could be really could be the case. So if there's anything going on Tatiana where she's like, yeah, I'm returning, but you know, I'm probably looking at February, March. Like, nope, see you later. Like, we need it by fall.
Yeah. But you mentioned, you know, using your old stars to build up your new ones. If for some reason the UFC decides that Jandiroba is next, no matter what, like even if Suarez is ready, then I think you feed Lemos to Suarez.
Yeah, poor Lemos.
You know, poor Lemos, but at the same time, she is challenged for a title, and she's fought in what should have been a title eliminator. I mean, when she fought Jessica Andrade and when she got standing arm triangled, as Lyndon Guo has been, you know, frothing at the mouth about for the last 5 minutes, that should have been a title eliminator, except that Andrade decided to jump weight classes again after that. Otherwise, the winner of that was going to be next. I don't think she would want to take a step too much farther away. Like, she's like, I'm 37. I can't go back and face someone at the outside edge of the top 15. I got to win now.
Yeah. All right. I don't mean to interrupt you in the chat, but we love Marcus Mustard. The guy's a great dude. He's like always in the chat, commented. He's a fantastic dude. But Mark, I don't know how old Marcus Mustard is. I just hope he's over 21. Because the dude's obviously been drinking tonight when he said, who's a historical comparison for Virna Jandiroba? And then he says, GSP ? Dude's been drinking.
I mean, I get where he's coming from with that.
Style like that.
I mean,
oh my God, Marcus, put down the drinks, dude. Put down the drinks. Now he's throwing out Habib.
Now Marcus is like huffing glue or solvents or something.
Yeah, Jake Shields without a very controversial
personality. Rafael Asuncao. I made the RDA comparison. Like RDA before he won the title, when he really was just a heavy grinding grappler. That's
David Myers actually a good comparison. No, Marcus, I love you, buddy, but stop drinking tonight, my man. Throwing out next, he's gonna throw out Fedor.
Maybe Alex Emelianenko. Like,
I mean, she had a good performance tonight, but we're talking about freaking, you know, some people put GSP the greatest fighter of all time. You know, Habib never lost. Anyways, I'm gonna slightly disagree on like if Suarez can fight, I'm not having her fight anybody else before the title, because I mean, she could go out there and absolutely murder Amanda Lemos, and I think she would. And then she's going for like another year and a half because something happened. So I guess the argument is, well, then why would you use her to fight a title shot? Because what if she wins the title and the same thing happens? Yeah, I get it. Like, I get that. Let's go with Lemos for a second. Obviously, she's lost 2 out of 3. She's on a little skid. What are you doing with Amanda Lemos?
I'm busting her down the ranking somewhere. I mean, my thought really was someone like Suarez, but she's 37. She's come up short now every time she's been this close to the title. I mean, yeah, I mean, you throw her all the way down to like someone who's young, up and coming, but has fewer than 5 fights in the UFC. You throw her at like a Yasmin Lucindo type.
Yeah, I kind of went the same. Lucinda was actually one I originally wrote down, so I like that. I actually went with Jillian Robinson. I just think Jillian kind of deserves. She's kind of earned herself a big one. So we're kind of in the same. We're in the same.
So Jillian Robinson has earned herself a nap and a black eye, huh?
I don't know. I mean,
Lemos would. I mean, I like Jillian Robertson. I enjoy watching her fight. I like the improvements she made, but that, well, after the performance tonight, maybe Lemos goes out and like does an Imanari roll in the first 15 seconds.
She might be like, hey, Jillian Robinson's a really good top side grappler. You pull guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dev. So Dev's giving us a shout out saying that we talked a lot about freaking Virna Jandiroba. We tried. We're 35 minutes in talking about Virna Jandiroba. Let's move on for a second. So the rest of the card, I mean, we get 10 fights. Nothing really has much ranking relevance, and so we're probably gonna be. This is probably a quicker, show than normal. But let's go to the co-main event. Obviously, you know this trivia question, but Ben, if I asked you, say 3 months ago, where he's not on your mind, you're not doing a preview show, who has the longest current knockout streak in the UFC? How many guesses would it take till you get to Steve Garcia?
20, 25.
Oh my God. Ben, I said if I asked you 3 months ago, if you asked me 3 months ago, I think I'd still be guessing.
There's 600 fighters in the UFC. You're getting down to the last few. I mean, it has been kind of foremost in my mind that he's drastically outperformed expectations, at least my expectations. Again, this is a guy that was just another dude, even in Jackson Wink's like homebrew promotion. He was just another dude. He was on the wrong side of 30. I thought it was one of the more cool, whatever signings that the UFC had made in the last 5 years. And even after he won his first fight in the UFC, I thought, okay, the top level expectation is that he'll turn into a Julian Erosa for a couple of years, where he'll get posterized, he'll rack up a couple highlights himself, and he'll have a fun 8-fight run in the UFC where he gets a bonus of some kind of 6 of the 8 fights. Instead, dude, he's calling out Dan Ige and nobody's laughing. Like, it's...
Yeah. Like, it wasn't that long time ago. If you mentioned Steve Garcia to me, I was thinking of Steve Peterson. Like, he was in that level. Like, I'd mix them up.
Our man, Dev, he's become the like Justin Gaethje in World Series of Fighting, where he's knocking everybody out, even if it's like way too exciting against guys that it shouldn't be. Like, it's the Gaethje that had 2 barn burners with Luis Palomino.
Yeah. That was as crazy as that sounds. People talk about all the incredible fights that Justin Gaethje has, and it's, I mean, if you make like funnest Justin Gaethje fights, like you make a top 10, that's some good viewing for the next 4 or 5 hours. Luis Palomino fights are right up there.
They were fire, but you watch those and you're like, oh, okay, this guy's never touching something in the UFC.
Oh yeah. You're like, oh, he's getting starched in the UFC.
And I mean, he did a couple times, but then he made adjustments. He's just a Gaethje. He rules. We don't deserve him.
So Steve Garcia, I mean, the dude's got power. I mean, it didn't start off good for him. He was getting his legs kicked out. Yeah, he was getting hit from the outside. Then finally he said, he's a classic, I'm biting on the mouthpiece. I'm going to get in the pocket. I'm going to throw bombs. Steve Garcia fights like people try to imagine Jeremy Stevens fought.
Oh, what people thought Jeremy Stevens was is a
like they'd make up these stories about like when is he had like 1 or 2 good knockouts and then he turned into like
1 or 2 good knockouts in literally 30 UFC fights.
Yeah, and he was like a bite down in the mouthpiece, slug it out, and it's like no, I mean,
he did bite down on the mouthpiece and slug it out. He just lost. I'll throw something out about Garcia, and it's something that I will also need to say about Haider Emil in the middle of eating a huge plate of crow for the teammate of his that came after us on the comments of our preview. In what looked like just a wild swinging thing where 2 guys are standing toe to toe and they're both swinging, Garcia has certain instincts that you're like, oh, we think, oh, natural power, everything hurts. He has this thing where even when things are awkward and off balance, he's got his feet under him. And because of that, he's landing solidly. It's the same thing that was true of Francis Ngannou coming up. Like Francis Ngannou, he's this gigantic tank of a man, but there are plenty of guys that look roughly like him and don't hit anywhere near as hard. Like Cyril Gane looks as big as he does. Like, well, hell, Brock Lesnar is bigger than him, and Brock Lesnar never punched as hard. And the thing is, even at his crudest, when he was really just learning the box, he just had something where his feet are planted under him properly in almost every situation. Like if you look at a still of when he jaw jacked Alistair Overeem, like that was in the middle of a crazy flying collision, but he's perfectly, like he looks like a sketch by like, you know, like a Renaissance painter, like just his weight's perfectly aligned. Garcia has a little bit of that. And
it's fun. I just keep thinking about, like, you know, I would ask the question like always, like he's on a 4-fight win streak. He's calling out Dan Ige, which actually makes a lot of sense. You know, you make that as a co-main event on a fight night, or you know what? How about a UFC pay-per-view opener? Like he kind of deserves it. Both of those guys kind of do. Like something like that. They
totally do.
Or like a wicked stacked.
Did you
card.
see Dan Ige had jokes this week? He like tweeted out yesterday.
Brad
Tavares, and like, I mean, that's because they're teammates, but
well, Brad Tavares, they asked him about it in the media day. He mentioned how he was upset that Dan Ige, like he didn't want Dan Ige to do that, like he should, like, you know, no preparation kind of thing. So then that was actually pretty funny. Yeah. So you know, I want to do it. Do you believe in Steve Garcia? And I want to preface it, like, go back to 2022 when he got starched by Mahashate. Would you believe that guy was going to go on a 4-fight knockout streak? Not just a winning streak in the UFC, knockout streak.
Nope. And definitely not a 4-fight knockout streak where guys are just, they're not the worst featherweights in the division. He's beating, like, Sung Woo Choi is a decent guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not a world beater. He's not a top 15 guy, but he's a solid middle of the road guy in one of the 3 best divisions in the UFC. He's not a bad fighter.
Yeah. And when he was on a 3-fight winning knockout streak, like, and he was tied with Alex Pereira, and I think somebody else is tied with him too. Like, not all knockout streaks are equal. Like Alex Pereira is different. I mean, he's knocking out the second best guy in the world. You know, so it's different. You know, this guy's fighting, he's knocking out prelim guys. But that said, it's a lot of fun. I know there's a ceiling. So I didn't ask you if you believe. Like, I believe there's a ceiling, and that he's going to hit that ceiling pretty soon. But when these things happen in MMA, I love the ride. Like, I want to hang on for long, and I'm just enjoying this. Like, this like guy that looked like a freaking got lucky to get a call from the UFC, and now he's a record holder right now. And I know that's not the longest ever, but it's the current knockout streak. Good for him, man. Good for him. So, do you believe it all? Did you think he could be the top 15 guy, or?
I believe he could catch the right top 15 guy on the right night. I wouldn't favor him against anyone in the top 15. But I believe in what I've seen. I don't think what we've seen is fluky. I think he's just a better fighter than he was 5 years ago. And he's a better fighter than I thought he was 2 years ago. I had to revise my notes on him. He's just,
Well, 2 years ago, I thought he was going to be fighting CS soon. So, I do want to mention something before we move on. I mean, like, Sean Sheehan, Sherdog.com, Sean Sheehan tweeted this out, and I just want to echo it. He talked about the audience, like everything was great for Garcia, but when Sung Ho Choi went down, he punched him in the back of the head like 6 times in a row, something like that. Herb Dean has never stopped a punch to the back of the head ever. He doesn't enforce that rule. Herb Dean is the worst ever. Like, I think he might be the worst referee in MMA.
He's a referee that gets as much work as he does.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the guy when they end up in freaking Kentucky and he's one time. I'm talking about like the guys who
worst regular guy in top level promotions. Yes,
he's at least in the conversation because
he's gotten worse. Like, and
2 hard warnings, and then he doesn't stand anybody up. Someone gets taken down, you take someone down, just bear hug him and lay on the ground. He's not gonna stand you up. Chris Styone, he's a bad one. He mentioned that he's a bad one, but Herb Dean. And the problem is Herb Dean is like, people think he's the best. You go to a casual friend who watches 3 fights a year, and you say, "Who's the best MMA referee?" They'll go, "Oh, Herb Dean."
Oh! If you go to that casual friend, you ask him to name refs in MMA, and he might be the only one some of them can name.
Yeah. They might throw
like they recognize Dan Miragliotta, but they wouldn't remember his name.
Yeah,
and they mentioned Big John McCarthy, who hasn't reffed a fight in 12 years. Like,
it's been that long, huh?
It's been at least that long. Yeah.
I'll say this while we're on referees. I know a lot of people don't like Big John as a analyst and a commentary guy. I've met Big John a couple times. He is the nicest dude. He is such a good dude. Anyways, he changed my opinion every time I talk to him. I've really enjoyed talking to him. Anyway, let's move on. So you like the Danny Ige fight, so let's make that happen.
I like the Danny Ige fight. I would understand if Ige felt like he deserved a bigger name, but if they sweetened it for him with good card placement, like say, okay, we want to book you for, the Madison Square Garden show in November. You're on the main card. It's Steve Garcia. So that Ige's like, okay, sure, I'll sign that.
Yeah, I could also see Danny Ige just turning into that anytime any plays Kevin Holland type guy where he wants to turn because he realizes like I'm not going to win the UFC title. That's not going to be me. Maybe I can make this like he already has that when he stepped up like an hour before that. Like that we're going to talk about that forever.
Yeah. And you know what? Even if none of the others are quite as spectacular as that, like stepping up on literally the same day, being willing to say yes and being like, I live in Vegas, I'll fight at 155 or 145. If that gets him 5 paychecks a year instead of 3, that's a significant difference in his future after fighting. And I've interviewed the guy a bunch of times. Like I know what his plans are after fighting. He wants to like move back to Hawaii and open gyms there and stop making Hawaii a place where all the good fighters except for Max Holloway move to Vegas to train. Like, you need some money in the bank to do that.
Yeah, but no one believes that because everybody wants to move to Hawaii. Like I want to move to Hawaii.
But he's from Hawaii. I'm sure he wants to go back.
Yes, I'm sure he has been more avenues than I did. Before that, the fight where you go, why is this fight on the main card? And like you bash it, and then the UFC like afterwards said, "This is why." Like they knew this was going to happen. Kurt Hollabaugh took on, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but Kainan Krzyzewski. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
He's a Brazilian with a like I don't know, Polish last name or something.
Yeah, he and Ariane Lipski, like the two Brazilians with Polish last names. Yep.
This talent wise, these guys are just bottom of the barrel for the Coach K. This one, bottom of the barrel for UFC. But this fight was a friggin' banger.
It was a banger. It was high on output, high on exchange leather, low on defense, low on strategy. I don't want to say fight IQ because I mean they did what they did, but I picked Krzyzewski in this one, and halfway through the first round, I was like, I'm not comfortable with this because Krzyzewski at every moment just looked one punch away from getting absolutely flatlined by Hollabaugh. And regardless of what Hollabaugh said in his post-fight interview, where he said, I'm the best boxer in featherweight.
Oh, did he say that?
He sure did. Like somewhere off in Hawaii, we're just talking about it. Like Max Holloway's ears turned red, and he's like, "What just happened?" Like,
dude had his entire family there. I don't know if he's the best boxer in his family. That like 3-year-old kid there might be able.
That little kid had fast hands.
That little kid might have.
He's kicking it. That was adorable.
So like people saying, "Oh, this fight wasn't good. It was sloppy and everything." It was Griffin Bonnar. That's what it was. Like Griffin Bonnar wasn't a. Wow, look at the skills that he said. He was just a rock'em sock'em. I remember when
Du Ho Choi is in the UFC Hall of Fame. His favorite Cub Swanson was not. It wasn't Fedor versus Krokop.
No, I think about when Kimbo Slice fought Dada 5000, and I still remember Jimmy Smith, who's fantastic. He goes, "It's not good, but you're not turning the 10-11 when they're going to commercial. Because say what you want." I was entertained as hell. Like,
I was entertained. I was thoroughly entertained.
Like these guys, like they neither guy have strike and defense. I mean, Krzyzewski like would not move his head at all. It was just like he was like stuck. Like he looked like he was a guy boxing with one of those big fat Bobby Heenan neck braces on, where he couldn't move his head to the side. I also kept thinking, like, both these guys are known for their grappling. Like, why doesn't either one of them go for take? Like, they started in the third, but I was like, earlier, I'm like,
I mean, Hollabaugh shot a takedown late in the second round. Unfortunately, he shot it when he was about to knock the guy out on the feet.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Let me remember that for Dude Seriously. It was high energy, low IQ affair. I mean, I feel bad just crapping on somebody's good night at the office, but whoever won this fight, it was very likely going to be their last win in the UFC. But yeah, like it was on the main card of a meaningless fight night event, and we were all entertained. It's the only fight on the main card that didn't get finished, and it was still, fun. It didn't ruin it.
Yeah. So I'm watching this, and I don't like the families being there. Like your wife, fine. I mean, you have an older kid, fine. Like having the kid was he a toddler? Was he like 3 years old? 4 years old?
Yeah,
maybe?
that kid was might have been out of diapers, but he was not in kindergarten yet. That kid was 3 or 4.
No. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, how fucking tough must that be to fight, listening to your kid screaming like crazy for you, like cheering for you, as a good son should. I think about, you're a dad, I'm a dad. Like you always want your kids to look up to you. I'm a fairly handy guy. Like I do all my, like I never really, certain projects I might have to get someone professional, but for the most part, I do all my own projects at the house. I'm not Bob Vila though. You know what I mean? I'm not on this old house. So, but like I feel like if I'm fixing something, and like my kids start watching me, like I want to like I want to do this right. I want the kids to be like, "No, man, my dad's the best. He can fix anything," And I feel stressed when I'm doing that. I couldn't imagine like a guy punching me, trying to knock my head off in front of my kid. Like how much stress? Like don't get knocked out in front of your kid. Don't get choked unconscious in front of your kid. Then I started thinking, freaking Koreski, how hard is it to punch a guy in the face when you hear his family cheering for him, his little kid cheering? Like, do I really want to knock this guy out in front of his 3-year-old kid? Like, that's freaking weird.
It's uncomfortable. I mean, dude, I remember my mom came to one of my wrestling matches all of school, and she couldn't do it anymore because like anything bad that happened to me, she started trying to like crying and starting climbing out of the stands, getting ready to pull some dude off me. Like,
it's not true. That's not true. She used to come to my wrestling matches. That's why. Hey. Yeah. Dev asked me.
My dad was a redhead. It's possible that we're like long lost brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I'm a Harbor Freight guy.
Hey, we had the Harbor Freight conversation. You need to listen to our podcast, Dev.
Yeah, come on, Dev.
Like, damn, Dev, I'm your boss. Listen to my fucking podcast.
Who's this Dev Goes Fishing guy? Didn't even listen.
Yeah,
we had a whole thing about Harbor Freight. I buy the Harbor Freight like you're like a cheap tools, not the tools.
Things you're going to use once or twice a year.
Yeah, if I was a master carpenter, I'm not buying my tools at Harbor Freight, but I love Harbor Freight. Anyways, moving on. Probably should have been the co-main event. Cody Durden took on Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva winning by second round TKO. Can I just say how much I freaking love flyweights? I know I say it every week. I just love flyweights. I listen. If I get, I'm considering this, Ben, to start my own MMA organization of just flyweights.
I'm totally there for it. That's amazing.
Think about the UFC got rid of the flyweight division. What if some rich guy who could start one of these, just Elon Musk or some guy just starts an MMA organization of just all the guys for flyweight. Listen, it wouldn't be the most popular, but then it would be freaking banging fights.
It would. Yep, 30C West. The WEC was great. Well, here's the thing. The lower weight classes is all we remember. We don't remember like Steve Cantwell and Brian Stan duking it out at 205. I mean, Carlos Condit, UFC salvaged the only good thing out of its welterweight division. Yeah, like north of 145, WEC was pretty weak.
Yeah. Yeah. MMA originalist 1990 saying nice word as always. Thank you, brother. I mean, this fight was great. Cody Durden he looked better than he ever looked. I mean, he was fast and hitting hard and accurate, winning the wrestling exchanges, almost had a couple submissions. Everything was going great for Cody Durden. He looked like a top 5 flyweight. And we like both these guys, like skill-wise.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And then Bruno Silva just friggin' reminded everybody what he has, and he can crack. It's been like 4 or 5 fights in a row where he dropped guys. And then, he had Durden. It was Durden's beating my ass to fight over 5 seconds later. And I mean, I don't know if it's comeback of the year. I know a lot of times we do like career comeback, but like when you're talking about in a fight, it's up there though, right?
It is. What a fantastic fight, fantastic comeback. And the kind of thing we didn't used to think flyweight could do. Like flyweight was a division where it's boring because like the little guys don't have knockout power. Man, that finish was brutal because he landed 5 or 6 shots after Durden's head was kind of stuck in the corner. So his head didn't have anywhere to go, just physics being a mean bitch. Like Durden already didn't come off as the smartest guy in the UFC. So I don't know how much we lost there, but yeah, it was some concussion for sure.
Yeah, I just think about like how the fight was going. I mean, Durden was, I don't know, 1 minute earlier looked like he was transitioning from sub attempt, and all of them were like looked like, oh man, he might get it. It was like anaconda choke, Darce choke, anaconda choke, guillotine. Everyone looked like it was couldn't end the fight. He's on the feet. He's landing the hard shots. If you went back a minute earlier, you say, wow, someone's about to get knocked out cold. You're like, oh damn, like Cody Durden puts him out, huh? And instead it's Bruno Silva. I was like, what a fight. That's why I love flyweights. Bruno Silva, everything was perfect, Bruno Silva, except when he called out Brandon Moreno. Like, Brandon Moreno's not going to take that fight.
Rogue beats John Jones. I mean, at arm wrestling, 100. Like, his arms are like the size of John Jones's legs. But
what are you doing, Bruno Silva? So let's be a realistic matchup for him.
Realistic matchup for Bruno Silva? I don't know, man. Did you tell me to have a matchup ready for that one?
You did, didn't you? I'm going to go with the loser of the fight next week, Muhammad Makayev and Manel Kape.
If that's still going on, like all of a sudden it was off of the UFC's mentions of it.
I thought it was on the I thought it got bumped from the main card to prelims.
Oh, okay. That might be.
I could be wrong. Honestly, when like news are breaking during the events, it's really hard because we're like taking notes for this and I'm updating the ticker and all stuff.
The UFC has signed back Askar Askarov. I like that as well.
Yeah, it's a feature Big Marcel feature prelim.
I'm glad I asked when Big Marcel was around. Yeah,
the Askar Askarov. Yeah, I mean, why was he not? Why was he let go to begin with? But yeah, I'm okay with it. I mean, it's flyweight, top flyweight. You can't make a bad fight.
I completely agreed.
All right, let's move on. Du Ho Choi took on Bill Algeo. I had some really good picks. I think this is my worst one. I thought Algeo was going to style on Du Ho Choi. It was not. Du Ho Choi turned back the clocks. In fact, he turned it back 8 years. It is his first win in 8 years. Du Ho Choi, the Korean's Superboy, won by second round TKO. Talk to me about his performance.
He looked fantastic. It'd be one thing if he looked like the Du Ho Choi of the last couple of years and just happened to get lucky and clock Algeo. I mean, that can be done. That's happened to Algeo. But he was on him from the beginning. His power looked good. His
boxing looked good.
His boxing looked good. He didn't really fall for any of the stuff that Algeo does that seems to kind of confuse and frustrate his opponents. Like Algeo is usually slower than most of his opponents, but he'll just flick out head kicks and stuff that just kind of give him something to think about. Algeo's wrestling was basically a non-factor, and Choi walloped him, man. He looked really good. It doesn't make me go, okay, Du Ho Choi is back. I don't think at 33 or 34 with his first win in 8 years, all of a sudden he's going to turn back the clock and, rack up a bunch of wins in a row, but he kept his job. I fully expect him to be on my cut list at the end of the show, and he ain't.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, I mean, he's a fan favorite, obviously, because, the Jeremy Stevens fight, he's in the UFC Hall of Fame. If you count how you want to count that.
The fight wing. Yeah.
The fight wing. He's a good pocket boxer. If he can get a fight in the pocket, he does well there. I was actually, he kept, the one thing I didn't like, he kept trying to jump guillotine. I think that was stupid, but he had some when he was defending takedowns, he was doing good. He actually hit a takedown of his own. Again, I don't want to get too impressive, but when you have a guy like Bill Algeo quit in the fight from a punch, and he could have a broken orbital or something like that, I think that's a good showing. Now, I put up 30C West, and I'm not trying to go with the insult, but just does this reflect on Bill Algeo more than maybe we're reacting about like, oh, what a great performance by the Korean Superboy, but this is 2 fights in a row where Bill Algeo took a lot of damage in the fight and knocked out. Like, is his chin and durability faded, and this has a lot more to do with him than it did than the Korean Superboy.
You got to factor in that. Okay, we're not doctors, but it screamed broken orbital, because the thing is, there was a delayed reaction. He got hit. He even threw another strike.
Whoa. Ben, we don't know each other like that. Don't say we're not doctors. Speak for yourself.
Okay, I'm not a doctor.
I got one from like University of Phoenix, one of those Dubai University.
But
I do a sponsor, by the way.
The delayed reaction and the obvious, like, not rocked but pain, where he just kneels, he's squinting and just like waving in the direction of Herb Dean.
Yeah,
like,
don't punch me again.
That's not reproducible. Like, if Choi and Algeo fight 10 times, I don't know who wins 5, who wins 6, who wins 7 of the 10, but it only ends like that once. The question is, Algeo's style, win or lose, he always takes a ton of hits. He ends up having to walk through fire and outlast his opponents. The moment his durability slips just a little bit, he's going to go from winning 2, losing 1 to the opposite, and you don't get to stay in the UFC long that way. And I think it's fair to ask, okay, is his durability starting to abandon him? I think that's definitely,
so
it's going to be on him to prove otherwise in his next fight.
Yeah, it could be a little combination of both. So, but I don't know how far Duo Choi is going to make it, but for the time being, I mean, it's pretty fun. Before that, Ji Young Lee took on Haider Emil, with Haider Emil winning by first round TKO. Dude, we had like a Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje moment, but if it was turned up on steroids. Laura Senko said this. I didn't like fact check her, but she's saying that, you know, the guy in the truck said this, that Haider Emil threw a 38 punch combination. Dude looked like he was like doing like you're doing like a fatigue or punch out drill on like a punch bag. Like, well, you're not really doing technique. You're just like, let's work our cardio, and you just keep punching. And the coach is yelling at you. You want to put your arms down because you're tired. Like, that's what it looked like. Like, that was fantastic.
It was fantastic, and considering that he was just chain gunning punches and it was a moving target because Lee was kind of staggering backwards, surprisingly accurate. I mean, you have to go back to you have to go back 20 years for me to see something like that. Vitor versus Vanderlei, or Phil Baroni versus Dave Manet, where somebody just chained that many punches in a row and that many of them actually hit the target. Fantastic stuff from Haider Emil. And even before that, I mean, these guys threw caution to the wind and started swinging freely pretty much immediately. And Emil got clipped a couple times pretty hard in the early going. Like, both guys got their licks in those first couple of collisions, but Emil recovered faster and poured it on, and that ended up overwhelming Lee. If you're looking at Emil and going, okay, as an undefeated guy who nonetheless, he is 34 years old.
He is a prospect, though.
Oh my God. I'll talk about that in a second. One thing you're looking for to say, okay, how much of a time window does this guy have to get anything done in the UFC? The quick recoverability is something that should make you happy to see. Because the guy that's 8 years older than his opponent recovers quicker when they both land solid shots on each other. That's a good sign. Obviously, I think you picked Emil and I picked Lee in this fight. So you got the pick right, but I said a couple of things that brought one of his Scrap Pack teammates out of the woodwork on the
wait a minute. You're telling me that a Scrap Pack member doesn't just take a little bit of criticism? No way.
I mean, these are guys that like broke off from like the Caesar Gracie camp with the D. No, you know that, but like I'm just saying that. They brought the trademark, Caesar Gracie chip on the shoulder with them. But here's the thing: there are 600 fighters in the UFC, and about 100 of them a year turnover. Like there's usually an average of 2 debuting fighters a week for a year. Like we have to know all 600 of them. Like when there's a debuting fighter, there's always going to be somebody out there that knows them better than I do, even though I freshly watched all of their fights that I can. I'm fine being wrong about these guys. Like it doesn't hurt me at all if Hyder Emil goes on to win a title. Like,
we're not that show.
No,
like, we're not that. We are not the show that like embarrassed when we get picks wrong. We're not the show that like I picked this one right. It was on the betting odds. I think it was my biggest upset. But I'm not that guy who pumps my chest because I make horrendous picks sometimes. So it's like we're not that show. I root for the funnest thing to talk about. And this was 38 punch combination. Pretty fun thing to talk about.
38 punch combination. Laura Sanko saying that the fight broke her pants, whatever that means. Much more fun to talk about than Jung Yong Lee just kind of jabbing and low kicking Emil to death with occasional takedowns, which is what I kind of figured would happen. So happy to be wrong in this case. And Emil has a way to go before this turns out to be a worse take on a debuting fighter on my part than saying that Uroš Medic was going to lose to Alon Cruz. So, we'll see how we're on my Mount Rushmore of bad takes this one ends up being. But for as long as Emil is around and fighting, I'm happy to have him here, man. That was impressive stuff. And in 2 fights in the UFC, he hasn't even really flexed his ground game yet. He's good on the ground. Like, dude in the comment section took me to task for saying he's a good boxer when he's like, oh, haven't you ever heard of Muay Thai? Yes, I've heard of Muay Thai, but I think his punching is what's going to like serve him best at the UFC level. And guess what happened tonight?
We talk about fights. We tape a show that's like over 2 hours long, sometimes 3. Sometimes we went 3.5 hours, but never heard of Muay Thai before. This 38 punch combination, what I loved about it, again, I think that's a little exaggerated because it was like he'd throw like 8 punches. There would be like a 1 second that he could step back in. So I mean, you want to count all those punches as one combination? Cool. I mean, it was still fun.
There were absolutely more than 30 unanswered punches to end the fight. But yeah.
So my 9-year-old son, he's a very athletic kid. He plays a bunch of sports. Wrestling's the best. But he's a 9-year-old kid, so he plays video games a lot. He loves it. Like at night, it turns dark. He's playing video games all night. He's 9. And he'll ask me to play with him, and like I try to play with him, but I don't play every night with him. But there's like a handful of games. Like he's very competitive, so we won't do Mario Kart because I beat his ass in Mario Kart, so he doesn't want to play that one. I don't want to play the shooting games with him because then it's like not even fair. Like he's telling me you got to switch your gun, and he's shooting me in the head, and I don't know how to switch guns, and I don't even know where he is, and he's sniping me. Right, I'm dead 5 times before I even seen him. So there's like 2 games we play. One's a basketball game, 2K something, and it's pretty competitive. Like we have really close games, and then the other one is I don't know what it's called, but it's like Super Mario Fight League or something. I don't know what it is. Like there's like 900 characters. You could pick like Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario, and you fight each other. Well, he beats my ass in it, but this is what it looked like because they'll hit me like 38 times, and like they'll hit me, and I'm like in the air, and he's still punching me.
You're just talking about Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, that's it. Super Smash.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what I called it. What I call it, Super Mario Fight League or something. That's a better name. Anyways. Like he hits me like 800 times, and I'm like, stop hitting me! I can't stop you from hitting me. That's what I felt like. He freaking young Lee me.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you're good at Mario Kart. Like I had no idea. Now forever, I'm not. The thin blue shell Shillan. Like
No, he sucks at that one. Like I'm not good. Like you probably kick my ass. Like he doesn't play it enough. He loves the shooting. I don't know what's the Fortnite's one of them. He plays out like he's freaking good at that game. I watch him play. He'll be like, I time to go back. I can't, Dad. I'm in the top 5 right now. This is the 37th level, and I'm going against some 35-year-old guy who's the world champion. Like, he's super into it. But I mean, like all the kids are. So, anyways, do you believe more in Hyder Mill? I mean, the guy is undefeated. So,
I mean, I never disbelieved in Hyder Emil. Like I said, it's hard to get excited about a guy that's 34 years old, has now 10 fights and is 2 fights into his UFC career. Even if he wins every fight from here on out, he's going to run out of road before he gets to top 5 opponents. Like, just unless he becomes like the first guy in the history of the sport. Like, dude, he's the same age as Alex Volkanovski, and Volkanovski is visibly falling off. Like, and think of how many fights Volkanovski had to win before he was in contention. Like, Emil doesn't have enough time to win 7 more fights.
Yeah, I think he's
like, that's all. When I say he's not a prospect, I'm not saying he's not a good fighter. I'm saying prospect kind of equates to young, because you need to have time, especially in any division from 135 to 170. You need to have enough time left on the clock to win 6, 8, 10 fights in a row.
Yeah, think about like if he was an NFL running back at 34 years old, you'd be like, what? His career should have been over 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And
maybe he's Kurt Warner, the guy that shows up out of nowhere. Like,
but I'm talking about running back. I'm talking about running back.
Yeah, not a running back. Yeah.
And I want to explain this to Big Marcel, because I know he's in one of those third world countries. He doesn't know it. So the NFL, that's where the guys who play football have muscles.
Yeah.
They weigh more than 130 pounds. Like those guys. That's what that is. Where like the whippiest guy in football could kick the shit out of the toughest guy in soccer. That's what that is. Just so big Marcel knows.
Now, something that I am thinking about Hyder Emil now is his debut fight ended up being against Fernie Garcia, and I mean that was a perfect showcase. Fernie Garcia, you knew he was just gonna stand and throw down with the guy, but he was supposed to fight what's his name? The Armenian kickboxer guy. I
don't know. I know exactly.
He was supposed to fight Melsik Baghdasaryan.
Oh yeah.
I want to see that fight now.
Yeah, that's actually a banger. That is a banger. That is a banger.
Marcel's dunking on you, by the way.
No, he's not.
Where they walk with a ball in their hands and call it football.
No, he's not. No, he's not. You know what big Marcel is. I already like I juked him so bad. I'm already in the end zone. He's still, the ball got thrown to me yet. Before that, Brian Kelleher took on Cody Gibson, with Cody Gibson winning by first round sub. You know what Cody Gibson did tonight? He said, "Oh, Korean Superboy, 8 years. Hold my beer." How about a freaking decade? He hasn't won a fight in the UFC in 10 years. Hey, you know what? Good for you, Cody. I'm going to give you that. That's fantastic, dude. Winning by first round sub.
And whooping Kelleher basically every step of the way on his way there. He looked fantastic. And part of it is that Kelleher has gotten older faster than almost any decent fighter I can think of. Like, Kelleher, not quite a top 10, top 15 guy, but solidly top 25 in 2 of the best divisions in the sport. And he has gone from a reliable tough out to a not tough out in like a year. It's shocking. And Gibson at 36 is fighting better than ever. He looked really good.
His wrestling, I was impressed with his wrestling. His wrestling looked good. Keller's shot though. He is. I mean, at this point, he's just a guillotine, and it's not like he's a Charles Oliveira. And I know he's always my example, but he's not that level of grappler. I mean, he has no pressure. He's been rocked. He has no durability. He's been out wrestled now, like super easy by, Cody Gibson's a wrestling coach. But like, you're not talking about freaking NCAA. It was one of the freaking Spencer Lee showing up or Bo Bassett. Like, this is Cody Gibson. Yeah. He's been subbed at like, I think a bunch of fights in a row. I mean, the guys, really should think about retiring.
The arm triangle, like, just offered no resistance as it was set up, and as soon as it was locked in, like the hand was hovering to tap. Like, Kelleher offered no resistance on the ground, and that's not the Brian Kelleher we're used to. Like, again, I'm used to thinking of him as the quintessential tough out, where even if he's the less skilled fighter, which he often was, even if he's the less athletic fighter, which he almost always was, just tough to get out of there. Tough guy, made it tough for his opponent, fought to his best advantage, and he got overwhelmed by a guy that, again, was 1-5 in the UFC coming into this, and basically had like walked away from a solid job just teaching junior high school history to move back to Vegas. And
now Brian Keller history. So
and Cody Gibson is still schooling people.
John Butterfield. Yeah, nice job. John Butterfield points out that he's now lost 4 fights in a row in the first round. Anthem Tardoff mentioned that Brian Keller has more losses in the UFC at this point than wins now because of this. Because remember when he first came to the UFC, he kind of made some noise.
He's 5-6 in the UFC. He's 4-5 at bantamweight, something like that. The 3 or 4 at bantamweight. So he's.
Before that, the one consensus underdog pick that we got wrong, we hit all the other ones. Miranda Maverick took on Deone Barbosa. Miranda Maverick winning by unanimous. In fairness, this is the biggest underdog in on the card, and I think the fight was closer than what the line said. So I don't hate the pick. That said, Barbosa really, really frustrating because she. You know what? You talk for a second because I don't want to. I'm very frustrated because I still feel like I picked the right person.
Me too. I felt solid about my pick, but and Maverick did the Maverick thing. She stands like a Muay Thai striker, does the hip feints, throws a couple kicks, and the first time a punch comes back her way, she crashes into the clinch and tries to take her down. Like she did the Miranda Maverick thing. That should have been just a fat pitch down the middle for Barbosa to crank out of the park. I mean, she's a freaking Olympic judoka who was visibly larger than Maverick, but Barbosa just may not be quite as good as I thought she was. She looked like an Olympic judoka for about 5 seconds of the fight when she hit a fantastic scarf hold throw.
Oh, absolutely.
Like one that puts every other women's flyweight headlock throw to shame. Like Maverick went flying, but even on that one, Maverick was out of there and on her back in like 5 seconds.
Which goes back to my take about judo and the control, and because of their style, you have to get 1 point in judo. It's quick and it's Maverick. To me, it came down to fight IQ. Maverick knew what she needed to do and put herself in that position. Barbosa is this girl who's probably did judo forever. She's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's fallen in love with striking. It's a new thing to her. She was throwing a bunch of high kicks and she's explosive. She was doing okay on the feet. The problem is you're still a grappler. Like close the distance. You have a huge size advantage. Get the fight to the ground. Control on top. Instead, Maverick was getting the takedowns. She was on top, and there was one point, she was on top. She's in control. I do think the fight should have got stood up. I think Maverick was holding Barbosa down for long periods of time that the referee could have stood her up. I can't remember I don't think Herb Dean was a referee for this one, but still, like there's
it was Taglioni.
Okay, it was Chris Taglioni. That said, I think the entire fight can be summed up. I don't know if it was a second or third round. There was a position where they both got Barbosa was kind of like going for like an ankle lock. She was kind of like sitting on her butt, but kind of on top of Maverick. Maverick was kind of like trying to get up. And there was a moment they needed like a scramble was about to happen. You know, a scramble was going to happen. And Barbosa like allowed Maverick to scramble to her feet, get the top position. And she turned into Maverick and like pulled down to guard. Like she was like, okay, like she accepted losing that position when she was actually at the higher point. She could have won it. And I go, that summed up the entire fight.
It was the third round, and I know exactly the sequence you're talking about. And I agree.
And all that, and that just doesn't. You know what? Jiu-jitsu just doesn't work. I'll just say it. Jiu-jitsu does not work. I had to whisper it because I listen. I know it works, but like, it's like the friggin' ice cream machine at McDonald's. Like, yeah, I guess it works every once in a while, but like you never like no one has ever said, "Hey, let's go get ice cream to go to McDonald's." Because you don't say after your team wins a big game, like we're going to get ice cream. You don't go jump in the back of the car and go to McDonald's because you know it's probably not going to work.
Yeah, John Butterfield says it reminds him of the Jasdavicius Klein fight from last weekend. Aside from the fact that Maverick was the smaller fighter in this case, yeah, but
Same
Yeah,
as
the
the
so-called
mental side of it.
and the fighter that would be expected to be the ground specialist just got controlled by a veteran. Yeah, totally like that one.
Maverick's she's short for the division, but she's very she's very muscular.
She's strong.
I wonder if she can make 115 though, because of just the height. I'm worried about the girls that would just outmuscle her.
I wonder. And see, the thing is,
I don't know if she made. She got a lot of muscle.
A couple of people have mentioned in the chat thread, including our guy Dev, that Maverick, skills wise, she hasn't changed much since she was Invicta. Like she fights the same way, but when she came to the UFC from Invicta, she was still a full-time student, part-time fighter. At this point, she's a full-time fighter, and where it has really made itself shown is that she's more muscular than she was 4 or 5 years ago. Like, she came to the UFC, she was 22. I mean, she's always been powerfully built, but now you look at her, the shoulders, the arms, the back, she would have to do a pretty radical redesign of her physique to get down to 115. If she's interested in doing that, if she wants to take 4 or 5 months off and do that, I'd love to see it, because it's not like she's out of her depth at 125. I mean, she just won again. She's 7-3 in the UFC, but I also don't see her ever even making it to a title shot, considering how many other women there are around her same age who have already beaten her or whom I would favor over her.
Yeah, she just might be that tweener, like where she's too big for one weight class and too small for the other, which is, some people always like to add weight classes. She's just the exception. It is what it is. Moving on, before that, we had Trey Ogden, your boy, taking on Loic Roshabov. Trey Ogden winning by unanimous decision. This is where so you went 3 upsets in a row. This was the last one you picked. I picked 2 upsets in a row, but I'm not taking the credit. I picked the favorite in this one, Roshabov. Your boy Trey Ogden. Question for you though: how'd you score the fight?
I gave Ogden 2 rounds out of 3. I gave him the first and second rounds. I gave Rajabov the third.
I did too. I was trying to see. That said, I don't hate a Rajabov scorecard there. I thought he won the 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the 2nd round, he landed the better shots in the first half of the round. Like, he landed some big shots, and then he got taken down, and Ogden went for a submission. Almost had it a couple times. Had, like, top control for, like, 3 minutes or something like that. I leaned Ogden, but I don't hate the argument for anybody who gave that round to Rajabov.
Yeah, I mean, the 2nd round was close. Again, it was really just a story of 2 rounds. Rajabov won the first half of the round. Then, apparently like a stiff breeze blew into the apex. All it takes is a stiff breeze, apparently, to put Rajabov on the canvas, and Ogden won the second half of the round. Dude, Rajabov's defensive wrestling was so bad in this fight. God. Like, it reminded me of when, like, my younger brothers and I were teenagers during the summer and just constantly running in and out of the house, and my dad would yell at us to stop slamming the screen door. Instead of just fixing that little piston on the screen door so that it wouldn't slam. Yeah. Like, Rajabov was like that screen door. Just Ogden was just running through them both ways.
Nice. I like that reference.
Well, it was screen door takedown defense where, like,
I know. Ben, there's me fixing all stressed out. Like, oh shit, I'm kidding. Watching.
Rajabov knows how to wrestle. I watched him in PFL. I watched him, fighting good fighters like Natan Schulte and wrestling. But here, like, he knew Ogden would be coming for takedowns. Ogden's not fast. Like, he's opportunistic and has long arms and does those kind of takedowns. And Ogden would get on his hips, and Rajabov would just still be standing straight up with his legs together. Like, he didn't see it coming, or he was trying to give him a free shot. I don't get it at all. It was almost uncharacteristically bad. I picked Ogden to win the fight, but I didn't expect Ogden to make him into a tackling dummy.
Yeah, I look at, and I know Trey Ogden obviously is the head coach of Marathon MMA, but if like you were coaching Trey Ogden, to me he's a dream. He's a guy that he is limited skill set, but he is such a smart fighter that he gives himself the most opportunity. He's the guy who bats 250 in baseball, but has like a 400 on base percentage because he takes a pitch and he doesn't swing at a bad pitch, and he gives himself the best chance to get on base. Mm-hmm. Like Roswell's the guy who bats 250, but swings at everything. He leads this league in strikeouts. And again, Big Marcel doesn't
Just
understand that sport. It's
goes
that's
down swinging, like
that's the sport
strands
where,
2 runners on base.
yeah, that's a sport where it takes a lot of skill. Like you're trying to hit a very small ball with a bat instead of kicking a giant ball with your entire leg. So it takes a lot of skill. And the ball's actually coming at you like 100 miles an hour too, which anyways, like his fight IQ, like he's shooting takedowns, he's timing it. He talked about where the Lloyd Roswell's foot positioning was, and I'm like, this guy's so smart. He takes down, he doesn't rush anything, he controls, he secures position, he doesn't lose his back take skills were freaking fantastic. Roswell's the opposite. Roswell did everything wrong. Like at one point he had in the second round, he had Ogden hurt early and he just kept headhunting. I'm like, dude, he's going to go for takedown. Go to the body. His body was wide open. And I'm like, dude, you won. It's going to be hard for him to shoot on you, but also you're more likely to actually probably put him out with a body shot. And I mean, again, this is another fight. This one I thought might have been worse. I thought Roswell should have got some stand-ups, but so be it. Like, referee's not helping you out. You got to do something. To me, the difference in this fight is Ogden's a BJJ guy. He's a BJJ grappler. So the difference between him and like Barbosa, Ogden's a BJJ grappler who understands that BJJ works from the top position. In MMA, you need to win by having the top position. And he's going to beat, like, there's definitely a ceiling to him, but he's going to beat a lot of guys simply on the game plan.
Agreed. And he's never going to give away a fight that he should win by coming in with a bad strategy or making mistakes. Yeah, I agree. He's a coach's dream. And not every fighter who's also a coach is, like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's why he's a good coach. Because imagine if you gave him natural talent, you gave him, like, who's a guy that has, like, think of like what BJ Penn, when BJ Penn first came on the scene. Super fast, super athletic, super flexible. If you gave him Ogden those with his mindset, that guy'd be a champion. Yeah. Or whoever, insert, insane athlete.
Right.
Before that, your girl Lucy Pudilova took on Luana Carolina.
Get out of here.
Luana Carolina winning a unanimous decision. This was a consensus upset pick. We both picked Luana Carolina. She's won 3 fights in a row now, Ben. Has she turned the corner? Are you believing?
She's turned the corner, and I'm believing to the extent that, you know what? This sounds oversimplifying, but if you've won 3 fights in a row in a division this bad, you're on the cusp of, like, she's literally on the cusp of the top 10. I don't think she's improved enormously. But if she's fighting somebody that can't or won't take advantage of her shortcomings, if you just hang out and give Luana Carolina fight like Pudilova did, she's going to beat you. I mean, she's a decent kickboxer. Just Pudilova fancies herself a striker as well. And while she was bigger than Carolina, she was slower, and it was pretty just straightforward.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm believing a little bit. So if she's at 125, this was 135, I'd believe in her more. Because that's an even worse division. But the thing she did, I mean, she continues to make improvements. That's what I like. She looked fast tonight. She's using her kicks well, especially like those push kicks to keep her distance. But my favorite thing is something that nobody else would be really excited. But if I was a coach, I love Pudilova. She's using her speed. She's moving. She's jabbing. She's kicking. She's keeping her away. And every time Pudilova was able to get past the kicking range, she initiated the clinch. She put her in the clinch. She went on the offense. So Pudilova does all this work to get inside to build to start open up the shots. And instead, now she's defending the clinch. And I was like, when did Luana Carolina be like a very intelligent fighter?
It's, you know what? There's something to be said for when regional fighters, especially in shallow divisions where regional fighters get called up after fewer fights. Like, how long has Luana Carlina actually been able to do this full time? Like, how long has she been able to afford to fight and train full time? Probably not that long. And maybe
what if she's a doctor? You said we're not talking. Maybe she's a doctor.
Maybe she's a doctor. Like, I strongly doubt it. But
she comes in the cage and checks on Bill Algeo a couple fights later.
Yeah, I mean, like, she's coming in with better game plans. I think she herself might be actually in physically better shape. Yeah, like there's more room to improve there. She's not that old. I think she's just 30. And I have to temper all of this by just saying that Lucia Podolova just isn't good. I said it on the preview. There's a reason I picked Carolina to win this one.
That's a bold statement there, man.
Yeah, Podolova's just not good. Like, I thought maybe she might be, because she washed out of the UFC, then she really did go and clean house in Octagon. But it just turns out that while Octagon is a good promotion, flyweight is a bad, or flyweight's a bad division, and she was beating up on women who, for the most part, just aren't great, and she's the same fighter. So yeah, Podolova did not do herself any favors, because she just really kind of gave Carolina the best possible fight for her.
Yeah. And before that, speaking of not good, Muhammad Usman took on Thomas Peterson, with Thomas Peterson winning the unanimous decision. This was our first consensus upset pick. We both picked Peterson. I believe that Muhammad Usman is not related to Kamaru Usman. I don't think they're really brothers. I think it's like, remember in Godfather, spoiler alert, in Godfather, where they have like Sonny and Fredo and Michael, they're all brothers, but then you had Tom, who was like brought into the family. They call him his
like
brother.
The adopted brother. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking Muhammad might be that. Like, him and Usman don't really share the same like DNA or anything. It's just,
I mean, Muhammad could be the brother, and he's just Fredo, the one who's kind of like the dummy and the failure.
That's even worse. Oh,
I know it was you, Mo.
Michael, I'm smart.
I'm smart. Not like dumb. I'm smart. Here's
It'd be great if Kamaru just grabs him by the face and kisses him.
Yeah. And then just sends him out on the boat.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. And credit to our pint-sized comedy queen, Portia Baines, for saying this on the preview comments. She compared the Usmans to Jason and Clay Guida. I completely agree with that, because it's not like Muhammad Usman is a complete laughingstock like, Dan Lozon or Nick Serra, but it's the perfect example, like the Guidas, where, okay, yeah, you've got most of the same genetics, but only one of you has an insane work ethic. That's what it feels like to me. Yeah, like the physically big brother.
I think it's Vincent Chase and Johnny Drama for my Entourage fans. That's you watch the Entourage?
That's gonna go right over my head.
Okay. No. Fairness, man. I'm a little younger, a little more hip than you. So
yeah. LGP says Herbert Burns, another perfect example where, yeah, you got pretty similar genes, pretty similar basic skill set, but one of you is a super hard worker and the other is just canon.
Oh, Big Myself with a good reference. Rashad and Lance Evans. Can we talk about Rashad Evans on the when they go to the booth sometimes when there's like a quick, he goes, it was one of the dumbest statements. He says, yeah, really good showing from Cody Gibson. And then there's some guys will just speak when they shouldn't. There's like this filler time, and they just need, instead of taking that pause, he goes, yeah, really great showing, pause. And Brian Keller had a good fight too. I'm like, no.
He had
the fight he just had? Or are you talking about like in the past? Yeah, good fights.
Oh man. We need the Burns moment. Dev, we need Kamaru to carry Muhammad out of the octagon.
Right. If
Kamaru Usman's knees just crumbled into dust just from you saying that.
Remember who was it that Kamaru wanted to fight at light heavy? Was it Jan Blachowicz? It was like
that's who was champ at the time when he was.
He talked about like skipping 2 weight classes. If Kamaru went up 3 weight classes, could he beat Mo Usman? If Kamaru fought at heavyweight, could he beat him?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Like maybe
Kamaru without cutting weight walks in there at like 208. Yeah.
Maybe. So to me, Mo Usman, he just keeps looking worse. Like it was such a terrible show. This is to me, I thought it was his worst show. No head movement. I thought the broadcast did well. That's talking about like he was turtling up and he wasn't reacting well. And then he just completely. I know Peterson's a more decorated wrestler, but he just completely. It's 2 fights in a row. He just completely ignored his own wrestling. And Peterson, to his credit, he made some improvements. He was moving his head more. His striking looked better. He was fighting in bursts. He was winning output. He was pressuring him. He added some takedowns in. I'm not going to say he's going to be a contender one day, but I think he's going the right direction.
He's going the right direction. The thing about Usman is, at this point, he's still 3-2 in the UFC. He's above 500. It feels weird because he won his first 3 and now he's lost 2. So there's the momentum, but he's above 500 in the UFC. I mean, he's not that bad a fighter. It's just, okay, I've already seen all I need to know. Like, okay, maybe he hangs around for another 10 fights, just kind of win one, lose one, but I've seen all I need to see. Peterson, at least, he has some physical disadvantages. I mean, if he ends up becoming a contender, he'll be like the shortest and stumpiest one since DC. He's a short, stocky heavyweight. I know he's listed at 6'1", but he's kind of got that build where he seems shorter. His arms are short. I mean, he's got like the Ilir Latifi build. But he's just 29 years old. Like he's got time. He could. Yeah. Why am I trying? Like you had it perfectly. When I asked if either of these guys had top 15 upside on the preview, you just like started laughing at me for like 10 seconds straight. That was the proper answer. Why am I even trying to?
Peterson might. I mean, when you look at the bottom of the top 15, it's pretty bad. So maybe Peterson. Let's get to the fun stuff. Because we've done all 11 fights. Let's go negative right away. Let's go to the cut list. So the cut list, if both me and Ben have the same fighter on a cut list, we give the UFC permission to get rid of them. Ben, I forgot to do the cut list, so I was doing it on the fly while you were talking. I don't know how. It's not like we haven't done the show 200 times. I have 3.
I have 2 that I can think of, and I expected to have like 5 or 6. But I have 2 that I can think of, and I might be forgetting one, so I'm open to being. Actually, I've got 3. Never mind, I've got 3. I don't know if they're the same 3 as you.
I think it is. I'm going to predict that we're going to hit all the same 3. So, Ben, I'll throw you the first name out there.
My first name out there, Lucia Pudilova. She's 1-3 since being re-signed by the UFC. That's the end of her return contract. She's 3-8 overall. She's proven in 2 different divisions that she's not UFC material. Let her go.
Yep, that's 1 for 1. Give me the next name.
Brian Kelleher, 4 in a row, looking worse against lower level fighters every time out.
Yeah. All right. So that's the same one I had. I think he's retired, not just cut from the UFC. I think he's shot. I think he's just fighting for a paycheck now. And this is a tough one. I got one more name, Ben. Let's see if we go 3 for 3.
I got one more name. He only has 2 fights in the UFC. But Kenan Krzyzewski, I'm letting them go.
Oh, we do not. Dude, that fight was so. I mean, he's not good, but that fight was so freaking good.
I'm fine with him staying
for that. So I saved him. You saved Mo Usman. I was getting rid of Mo Usman. 2 fights in a row. Man. He sucks.
He does. But
he can kick my ass before someone says
who's? I guess because it's heavyweight. I'm like,
does Usman have a third brother? Let's go. Let him take his spot.
They got a sister.
The Basharots have like a big fat brother. Wants to fight heavyweight.
Do both Basharots want to like get inside one big trench coat and like weigh in at 260 pounds?
I got Duffy's shoulders. One guy's punching him in the stomach.
At 11'2" and 260 pounds, it's the Basharat stack.
One guy's throwing punches at the belly, the other one at the head. And somehow a mill still threw more punches in the combination. All right, let's do dude seriously.
Okay.
Ben, do you have any dude seriously?
I have a couple of dude seriously's. One I already mentioned. Dude, seriously, Kurt Hollabaugh. You have Kenan Krzyzewski literally staggering and around in place, 2 solid punches to the face, and this thing is over. There's 40 seconds left in the round, and you shoot a double leg. Yeah, you got guillotined. You didn't end up, I mean, you got out of the guillotine easily, but your best chance to finish that fight was over. Like, come on, man. And on a night like tonight, being the only person not to get a finish on the main card, you may have cost yourself some money even.
Oh, okay. I think you're giving away the awards. Okay. Any else?
SOS rampages threw out one that I was thinking. Thomas Peterson calling out Chael Sonnen. So you're calling out somebody that is not an active fighter, is not employed by your promotion, is like fought a couple times at heavyweight at the end of his career, but made his bones as a middleweight.
No, it wasn't. He just wanted Chael Sonnen to mention him on the podcast this week.
That's fine. That's fine. But then call out a fighter and then say, "Hey, Chael, get me on your podcast." I don't know, man.
I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. I got one. The Slack notification thing going off again. This is the second time that's happened now on ESPN. But the worst thing is the ESPN MMA tweets about it and makes it a joke, like smiley face, laughing, like crying tear when you're laughing so hard. Like, imagine the NFL doing that if they were like had a mess up like that.
I can imagine the PFL doing that. Like between DC talking into a dead mic, and 15 minutes between fights, and like just kind of a production snafu like that, it just felt like what I expect for promotions other than the UFC.
It would have been for the first time. It's the second time. Like, come on, dude, seriously. How about Trey Ogden? Had a great performance, but then he said, "Oh, put me in there, and I can take anybody down." Dude, seriously? I think I freaking Bo Nickel. Relax. All right, my last one, Laura Sanko. I love Laura Sanko, and I didn't hear her comment about her pants falling off. She knows how to play the game a little bit, be professional, but throw a little in there to get guys excited. But Laura Sanko talking about leg locks, and she goes, "Well, this is a two-parter. This is a two-parter. First Laura Sanko, then DC. So first Laura Sanko going, they say jiu-jitsu is like chess. Well, leg locks is like speed chess." And I'm like, dude, seriously? Why is that? Because no one actually does that, just like leg locks. Like no one actually really does speed chess. But then after she was like, but leg locks is like speed chess. And then DC goes, yeah, because it's so fast. Like, do we need that? Come on, dude. Like, we got her reference. And then DC, I love DC. I love the guy. He honestly, I think he's the best personality ever. I know people hate on him, but like his like goofiness, like I love it. But he also talking about, he was like, I don't know what he said. He said a bunch of, he's like, oh, the house is rocking or something. They were the Apex with like 8 people on the ground. He kept like, he was acting like he was at Madison Square Garden or the friggin' Roman Coliseum or some shit.
Oh, you're at the Apex. Like we just talked about, was it Kurt Hollabaw's? Like, yeah, was Kurt Hollabaw's family there? Remember that Kurt Hollabaw's family had to leave right after that so that Steve Garcia and Sung Woo Choi's family could come in, because now they're even like the fighters' friends and family only get into the Apex for their one fight. It sucks.
Yeah, because they didn't have room for that toddler to be in there to watch the main event.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, they had the thousands and thousands of Virna Jandiroba fans coming in for the main event. Maybe
she got a big extended family. Who knows?
All right, let's go to everyone's favorite, the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market. You know what? Actually, no, let's hold on. We haven't done the awards yet.
We have, and we do know the awards. So
you have the awards. How many awards?
We have the awards. There are 4 performances of the night, no fight of the night, which is kind of interesting.
Which is, first of all, batshit crazy.
Because there was
Hollabar and Krzyzewski
was a really fun fight. Yeah.
I think that's like a low-key fight of the year candidate. It was that good.
Of that type of fight where it's like there's no real stakes, but it was just like a banger, that's definitely up there.
Yeah. You take that fight and make it a title fight. I mean, but if that's Alex Volkanovski and Ilya Topuria, that's fight of the year.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously main event, pay-per-view. I mean, that obviously changed everything, but you get my point.
Yes.
All right, I'll give you 4 you said. So I'll give you my 4, and then you can tell me yours and then tell us the awards. I'm going to go over the mill. I mean, you throw a 38 punch combination, you get one. And a big underdog. I'm gonna go with my boy. How about the Korean Superboy, Doo-ho Choi? I'll go with Steve Garcia, keeping the knockout streak going, and then I'm gonna go Bruno Silva. Those are my. I mean, there's a couple. I'm leaving out Cody Gibson, who absolutely destroyed Kelleher, but I mean, he was a big favorite. But those are the 4 I go with. Ben, which one did you agree with, or which one would you change?
You know what? There were 5, 6 finishes on the card. I would have been fine if you're not going to do a fight of the night with really any 4 of them. Your actual awards went to Haider Emil, Bruno Silva, Steve Garcia, and Virna Jandiroba. I am A-okay with that. But
I forgot about Virna.
Yeah, but if you swap in Cody Gibson and Doo-ho Choi for any of those others, I'm A-okay with that. This would have been the perfect card for them just to give 50K to every finisher. Like,
yeah. But
because there were no bad finishes. They were all cool in their own way. Like some of them were brutal. Some of them were like, shocking come from behind. Some of them were unexpected, like just, Jandiroba being so aggressive on the ground. They were all cool in their own way.
Yeah, the UFC should just give all finishes like a 50K bonus.
Yep.
But you know what? If I'm down, and I'm down 2 rounds of nothing, and I'm on bottom, and I get my head kicked in, and I go, "Hey, dude, I'll freaking tap out right now if you give me like 20 grand."
That's
like I'm about to lose anyways. There's 10 seconds left in the fight. Like 10 grand, All right, let's do the Bulls and Bears. The Bulls Bears are a stock market reference. You want to be in the Bulls list, you don't want to be in the Bears list. Ben, do you want to go positive or negative? Actually, I already put Bulls up, so let's go positive.
All right, well, we can go positive.
I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. Bulls. Bruno Silva. Had his moment and seized his moment. I just said that any of the 6 finishers would have been, good people to receive a bonus. Silva is one where I would have actually kind of objected if he had not been one of the ones to get a bonus. It was the most violent of the finishes on the card, probably even over Emil landing kind of 38 punches on the feet. Bruno Silva just hammering this man's coffin with 7 or 8 as his head is trapped against the cage on the ground. Durden gets up dazed and bloody. So yeah, Bruno Silva made the best of his moment. Good time to be Bruno Silva. Steve Garcia, one of the unlikelier success stories. It takes a lot to stop being just another dude at featherweight. And whether you and I believe that it's going to last or not, you kind of mentioned, let's just ride it while it goes. I'm with you on that, man. What a fun story. Number 1, Virna Jandiroba. Hers was the only fight on the card that had real divisional stakes. I mean, they're the only top 15 fighters. They're the only top 20 fighters on the card, probably. Maybe Silva and Durden. But this was the only fight on the card with real title picture implications. And Jandiroba not only got the job done, but got it done in a way that may actually spark a little interest. She served up some things that the UFC can use to sell her as a title contender. And that's stock up in a way more than just winning.
Yeah, I mean, I liked all those ones. I'll add a couple other ones to the list. My number 3, I'm going to go with, how about Luana Carolina? I mean, she's won 3 fights in a row. It's not that she's winning. She's showing improvements. So I have more confidence the more I see her. So I'll go Luana Carolina. My number 2, Haider Emil. I mean, dude's undefeated right away. It adds a little buzz. He was a big underdog. Didn't care, won that. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He's got 2 stoppages. And regardless of where his MMA career goes, the guy's got a highlight for all time with I keep saying it, 38 punch combination. And my number 1, how about long layoffs between UFC wins? We had 2 of them. Doo-ho Choi, 8 years since he last won, only to be topped by Cody Gibson with a friggin' decade. So good for both those guys to get back in the UFC win columns. Let's go to the negative. Let's go Bears. These are the ones who did not have a bad night. I'll go for, had a bad night, did not have a good night. Cody Durden. I mean, everything was going great, but he ended up losing, getting knocked out. Guy's on a 2-fight losing streak. So that he's going the wrong direction. My number 2, Amanda Lemos. I mean, I think should be the woman's 37. She's lost 2 of her last 3 fights. She's at the age where she really can't afford any fights. Like, her chances of winning a title is very slim, and it's getting much slimmer as the days go by. This was a major setback. And my number 1, I said it kind of briefly, but I'm going to say it again. Just stand-ups in MMA. They're non-existent right now. I mean, there was 2 fights in a row. Ogden versus Razibov. Well, Ogden was on top of Razibov for a very long time, not doing much, just holding down, and then followed up by Maverick against Barbosa. Again, I might be a little a little salty as I picked both those people, but still, there was long periods in that fight where they didn't get stood up. So I think MMA stand-ups are not good. Ben, do you have any?
Yeah, I have 3. On number 3, Muhammad Usman. I thought maybe we'd been wrong about him, or he was turning some sort of corner. He won his first 3 fights in the UFC, even at heavyweight. That's impressive, and he showed an improved gas tank. It was no longer such a big joke. At this point, he's lost 2, and he just seems to be quickly regressing back to the mean. Where I don't know if the UFC should cut him or not, but more importantly, I don't care. Like, if he sticks around for 8 more fights, great. If he's cut now, great, because I think I've already seen his peak. Number 2, Loic Rajabov. It was a close fight against Trey Ogden. You pointed out that somebody could have scored that fight for Rajabov, and I wouldn't agree, but it's not outrageous. But even if he'd won, I think he might still be on my Bears list, because every decent lightweight in the UFC just looked at that and went, "Oh, I can do that."
Yeah.
So,
well, in fairness, Trey Ogden can take down anybody.
But I'm sure everybody feels like that after they fight Loic Rajabov, apparently.
Maybe.
Yeah. Number 1, Elvis Sinisic. Elvis Sinisic, the king of rock and rumble, Australia's first fighter in the UFC, way back in the dawn of time, tapped out Jeremy Horn, and he went on to lose his next 6 fights in the octagon, fighting some of the best. I mean, the dude fought Tito Ortiz. The guy fought Michael Bisping. The guy fought he outside of Horn, all he fought was very good fighters, but he ended up 1-6 in the UFC, which is the worst record by anybody with that many fights in the UFC. Okay. Tonight, there were 2 fighters who were at risk of tying him. There was Kurt Hollabaugh. There was Cody Gibson. They both were 1-5 in the UFC coming into tonight. Both of them won and avoided meeting the Sinisic line. So the biggest bear of the night is Elvis Sinisic, who is still in sole possession of the worst all-time record in the UFC for somebody with more than 5 fights.
In fairness, he should. Not all record. I mean, the guy fought, who'd he fight? Tito Ortiz.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He fought Griffin. Tito Ortiz. He fought Patrick Cote when Cote was a monster. Yeah. He fought, he fought nothing but good people. And for the record, I think he's awesome. Like, I'm
he's awesome.
Like in retirement, all of a sudden he's looking more jacked than he ever did as a fighter. He's basically an ambassador for the UFC in Oceania. I think he rules. I'd hoped that he was going to get out of sole possession of that record tonight, but no dice. Yep, he beat Horn, Marcel, and that's why he got 6 more fights in the UFC and became basically their recyclable aluminum of choice for the next 10 years. Like, he's the guy they brought back to fight Bisping in England to give him basically a guaranteed win. Like, yeah.
In fact, he beat Jeremy Horn.
Frank Shamrock, dude. Like, yeah. It's just
he fought. Yeah.
They matched him brutally.
Yeah, he beat Jeremy Horn, which is cool, but so did 25 other dudes. So anyways, Jeremy Horn also beat 100 guys. So all right, let's go to the grade of the card. What was your overall grade?
I'm going to give this card a B. It was a terrible undercard, but the main card was very entertaining. And wonder of wonders, the main event ended within 2 rounds with a finish and gave as much divisional relevance as this card could possibly have. It had. So it really overperformed once we got out of those bad, prelims. B.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it was as good as it can get after the prelims, and also the card based on divisional relevance was kind of capped. So yeah, I think it'd be as good. The main card was freaking banging. So
yeah. And if you flipped it and it was a fun undercard and then the main card was miserable and Jandiroba versus Lemos was just a 49-46 slog, I might have given this card a D-. Like, it's really all's well that ends well and being pleasantly surprised.
Let's go to the hardest question. Who is your listener of the night?
You know what? The people still hanging with us are overwhelmingly either veterans, of our crowd, or business people in the business like John Butterfield and Big Marcel. Marcus Mustard, you're retired, dude. You're our unofficial fact checker and producer. You're too much on the inside to win this anymore. I'm giving it to Antheme Tardif, who hung around the whole time, had some interesting insights, made me laugh once or twice, corrected us on a few things. Always, love having you here. Also, SOS Rampages, thanks, for your contributions.
All right, my listener tonight is someone who I don't believe they're in the chat. Maybe they are. They're not in the chat, but they're maybe watching online, or maybe doesn't watch at all. But they were for sure watching the preview show. So who's my listener tonight? It's Lyle Burlingame 2276.
Oh yeah,
who is teammates, friends, or something with Hyder Mill. This dude went absolute scorched earth on us, especially on Ben,
especially on me.
I'm reading his comment, and the guy's like talking so much shit. And I'm like, dude, I picked him to win. What? And I'm reading, and I'm like, damn, dude. and then I was like, we had this huge paragraph just. You said this wrong. You said this wrong. You said that. It was, and then finally it goes on the next comment. It's like, oh, thanks, Keith. I'm like, oh, you just saw my prediction now. But hey, he said Hyder Mill was going to smash him. So great job. Plus, I think the comments was pretty funny. So we're not that guy. We could take criticism. We actually enjoy it. So that's my man, Lyle Burlingame. Congratulations to your boy Hyder Mill in the scrap pack. So Ben, real quick before we leave, has Jake Paul and Mike Perry started yet?
Yeah, they finished walking out. They are after first round, it looks like.
All right, who's winning? Is it too early to make a prediction?
It's not too late to make a prediction. They both had their moments in round one.
Right, who you got winning? I'm not watching. I have to be at a softball game and I gotta be leaving the house in like less than 6 hours from now. So I'm not gonna be watching. But who I think Logan Paul's gonna knock him out. And
it's Jake Paul, but
Logan, Jake, they're the same. Whatever, one of those guys. Jake Paul.
I mean, I don't know if he's gonna get a finish, but I'm leaning Jake Paul as well.
Yeah, Big Marcel's just mentioned that Paul knocked Perry down, so whatever. Fight like real boxers. Anyways, so you guys have it. We'll be back. We'll be previewing. It'll be up Monday. UFC 304. Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, plus Tom Aspinall defending his interim title against the last guy to beat him, Curtis Blades. And then we'll be back to recap all that. I got to go to a softball game, softball tournament. Hopefully we're there for a really long time, but we'll be previewing that tomorrow night. So thank you guys so much. Thank you guys all in the chat. If you're not in the live chat, please leave a comment. Afterwards, we try to go back and see those. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.